Captain Jake Harrison stood on the bridge of the UES Horizon, watching the stars stretch past as they dropped out of faster-than-light travel. The year was 2157, and humanity had finally reached the edge of known space. Jake had spent 15 years exploring the galaxy, but today felt different. Today they might find something that would change everything, Doctor. Lisa Morgan looked up from her science station with excitement in her eyes. Captain, I'm reading massive energy signatures. Ahead, this is unlike anything we've seen before. Her fingers danced across the controls as data filled her screens. Lisa had discovered 3 new worlds in the past year, but the readings she saw now made her heart race. Security Chief Tony Rodriguez moved closer to the main display. His job was to keep the crew safe, and unknown energy signatures always made him nervous. Captain, should we proceed with caution? Tony had served in the Earth Defense Forces before joining the Exploration Service. He knew when something felt wrong. Engineer Katie Sullivan called out from her station near the back of the bridge. All systems are green, Captain. The Horizon is ready for anything. Katie had built half the ship's systems herself. She trusted her work, but she also knew that space held many surprises. Jake made his decision quickly. Take us in slowly. All sensors active. Lisa, I want to know everything about those energy readings. The Horizon moved forward through space. Its crew of 45 people representing the best humanity had to offer. As they approached the source of the signals, the main screen filled with an incredible sight. Massive ships floated in perfect formation around an artificial space station the size of a small moon. The ships were beautiful and terrible at the same time, with smooth curves that seemed to bend light around them. Energy fields glowed along, their hulls like living things. Captain, Lisa whispered, these ships are using technology we can barely understand. Their power output is 10 times greater than anything Earth has ever built. She studied the readings with growing amazement and fear. Before Jake could respond, the communication system came alive with sounds unlike anything human ears had heard before. The universal translator worked frantically to make sense of the alien language. Finally, words formed on the screen and filled the bridge with a cold mechanical voice. Unknown vessel, you will identify yourself immediately. You have entered the territory of the Zephyrian Empire. State your purpose or be destroyed. Jake straightened his uniform and stepped forward. This is Captain Jake Harrison of the United Earthship Horizon. We come in peace, seeking contact with other intelligent life. His voice carried across space toward the alien fleet. The response came quickly and without warmth. You are primitive mammals from the 3rd planet of a minor star. Your species is unknown to the Empire. You will prepare to be boarded for inspection. Tony's hand moved toward the weapons console, but Jake shook his head slightly. They were completely outmatched. The smallest alien ship was twice the size of the Horizon, and there were dozens of them. A brilliant light filled the space around the Horizon as a massive alien vessel approached. It was beautiful in a way that hurt to look at, with surfaces that seemed to shift and flow like liquid metal. Energy patterns danced across its hull in colors that had no names. The alien ship attached itself to the Horizon with beams of pure energy. Jake felt the deck vibrate under his feet as something connected to their hull. All hands, prepare for boarding. Remember, we represent all of humanity today. The aliens who came aboard were tall and thin, with skin that shimmered like polished silver. Their leader wore robes that seemed to be made of captured starlight. When he spoke, his voice carried the weight of millennia. I am High Commander, Vexstar of the Zephyrian Empire. Your species is young and ignorant of galactic law. You will be educated in your place. His eyes looked at the humans like a scientist studying insects. Jake tried to maintain dignity. We are explorers and scientists. We seek knowledge and friendship with other species. The words sounded weak even to his own ears. Vexstar laughed, a sound like breaking crystal. Friendship? Your species has existed for mere thousands of years. The Zephyrian Empire has ruled the galaxy for 50 million years. We have watched countless species like yours rise and fall. You are nothing special, Dr. Morgan stepped forward bravely. Our science may be young, but human creativity and determination have accomplished great things. We've learned to split atoms, heal diseases, and reach the stars. The alien commander examined her with cold interest. Your achievements are those of children playing with simple toys. We mastered such things before your son was born. Your species will serve the Empire or be removed. These are your only choices. Jake felt anger rising in his chest, but he kept his voice steady. Humanity does not surrender easily. We faced many challenges and survived them all. Vexstar moved closer, his presence filling the bridge with an aura of ancient power. You misunderstand your situation completely. The Empire has destroyed species far more advanced than yours. Your primitive weapons and simple ships mean nothing to. Yes, you have 30 days to gather your people and submit to Imperial rule. Refuse, and your species will be extinct before your next moon cycle. The aliens left as suddenly as they had arrived, their ship detaching from the horizon with casual ease. Jake watched them go, his mind racing with the implications of what had just happened. Humanity had finally found intelligent life among the stars, and that life wanted to enslave or destroy them. Katie broke the silence first. Captain, we need to get home immediately. Earth has to know what's coming. Her voice was steady, but her hands shook slightly as she prepared the ship for the long journey back to human space. Jake nodded grimly. The age of human exploration had just ended, and the age of human survival had begun. The horizon raced through space toward Earth, pushing its engines beyond normal limits. Jake Harrison sat in his captain's chair, staring at the stars and thinking about the impossible choice facing humanity. Behind him, Dr. Lisa Morgan worked frantically at her science station, analyzing every piece of data they had collected about the Zephyrian technology. Captain, I found something important, Lisa called out, her voice tight with excitement and fear. While the aliens were aboard, I managed to scan their equipment secretly. Their energy shields operate on a very specific frequency pattern. If we could match that frequency exactly, we might be able to disrupt their defenses. Tony Rodriguez looked up from the tactical station where he had been studying the recordings of the alien ships. Even if we can break their shields, we're still facing weapons that could destroy our entire fleet. I counted at least 50 ships in that formation, and each one had enough firepower to level a city. Katie Sullivan emerged from the engine room, her clothes stained with grease and her face showing the strain of pushing the ship's systems to their limits. We'll reach Earth in 18 hours if the engines hold together. But Captain, we need to think about what happens next. The aliens gave us 30 days, and we've already used 3 of them just getting home. Jake stood and walked to the main viewing screen, where Earth grew slowly larger against the backdrop of stars. Home had never looked so beautiful or so fragile. Earth Defense Command needs to know exactly what we're facing. Lisa, prepare a complete report on everything we learned about their technology. Tony, I want tactical assessments of their ships and weapons. Katie, we'll need technical specifications on their energy systems. As the horizon entered Earth's solar system, communication signals flooded the ship. The crew had been missed, and their early return had raised questions throughout the Space Command structure. Jake opened a direct channel to Earth Defense Headquarters, where General Marcus Stone was waiting for their report. Captain Harrison, we've been tracking your approach. Your message about first contact has the entire government in emergency session. Report to headquarters immediately upon landing. General Stone's voice carried the weight of a man who had spent his entire career preparing for threats that had never materialized. The Horizon landed at the main spaceport outside Geneva, where Earth's unified government maintained its headquarters. Within an hour, Jake found himself standing before the Emergency Council, facing President Helen Carter and the most powerful leaders on Earth. The room was silent as he delivered his report, describing the alien encounter in careful detail. President Carter listened with growing concern as Jake explained the Zephyrian ultimatum: 30 days to surrender our independence or face extinction. How certain are you about their technological superiority? Her voice remained calm, but her knuckles were white as she gripped the edge of the conference table. Defense. Secretary Robert Hayes studied the technical data that Dr. Morgan had provided. Their weapons technology is at least 50 years ahead of ours, possibly more. Our current fleet consists of 200 ships, but none of them could survive a direct confrontation with even one of their vessels. Dr. Richard Park, head of Earth's Global Science Consortium, leaned forward in his chair. However, Dr. Morgan's discovery about their shield frequencies gives us a potential weakness to exploit. If we can develop weapons that operate on the same frequency, we might be able to level the playing field somewhat. General Stone slammed his fist on the table. Level the playing field? We're talking about a civilization that has ruled the galaxy for 50 million years. They've probably faced every type of weapon and tactic imaginable. What makes us think we can succeed where countless other species have failed? Jake looked around the room at the faces of Earth's leaders, seeing fear and determination in equal measure. Because we're human, General. The aliens dismissed us as primitive and unimportant. They think they know what we're capable of based on our current technology. But they don't understand human nature. They don't know how we respond when our survival is threatened. President Carter stood and walked to the window overlooking the city below. So we fight. The question is how. We can't match their technology ship for ship, so we need to find another way. Dr. Park spoke up from his seat. Asymmetrical warfare. We use our advantages against their weaknesses. They've grown accustomed to facing species that fight conventionally. We need to be unpredictable, creative, and willing to take risks they won't expect. Over the next several hours, Earth's leadership developed a desperate plan. The regular military would begin immediate mobilization, calling up reserves and converting civilian ships for military use. Meanwhile, special operations teams would launch guerrilla attacks on Zephyrian outposts to gather intelligence and capture their technology. Commander Sam West entered the briefing room with a group of Earth's best Special Forces operatives. His team included Lieutenant Nina Foster, a demolitions expert who had never met a problem she couldn't blow up, and Sergeant Paul Davis, a communications specialist who could hack any system ever built. Our job is to be thorns in their side, Sam explained to his team. We hit their supply lines, capture their equipment, and make them think twice about underestimating human determination. The scientists need alien technology to study, and we're going to get it for them. Dr. Morgan worked around the clock with engineer Ben Carter to develop new weapons based on her frequency discoveries. Ben had designed most of Earth's current starship technology, and his mind worked in ways that even surprised other engineers. If we can create resonance weapons that match their shield frequencies, we can punch holes in their defenses, he explained to the research team. Meanwhile, Colonel Andy Miller took charge of weapons development, working to adapt human military technology for space combat against a superior enemy. Andy had served in 3 different wars and understood that victory often came from doing what the enemy least expected. As word of the alien threat spread throughout human space, something remarkable began to happen. Instead of panic and despair, people responded with determination and anger. Factories began working overtime to produce military equipment. Volunteers lined up at recruitment centers faster than they could be processed. Scientists abandoned their regular research to focus on weapons development. The Zephyrians had made a critical error in their assessment of humanity. They judged humans based on their technology and current military capability, but they failed to understand the human spirit. They didn't know that humans grew stronger when threatened, more creative when desperate, and more dangerous when they had nothing left to lose. In research facilities around the world, teams worked to reverse engineer alien technology from the scanner data Dr. Morgan had collected. The breakthrough came when Dr. Jennifer Brooks discovered that Zephyrian energy systems operated on principles that human science had theorized but never successfully implemented. They're using quantum field manipulation to generate power, she explained to the assembled scientists. It's elegant and efficient, but it also creates specific vulnerabilities. If we can disrupt the quantum fields at exactly the right frequency, their entire power grid should collapse. As the deadline approached, humanity prepared for war unlike anything in their history. They knew they were facing impossible odds against an enemy that had conquered the galaxy long before Earth existed. But they also knew something the aliens didn't understand. Humans had never accepted impossible odds as a reason to surrender. The countdown to war had begun, and humanity intended to make the Zephyrians regret their assumption that humans would submit without a fight. 3 months had passed since the Zephyrian ultimatum, and the galaxy was learning that humans did not surrender easily. High Commander Vexstar stood in his command center aboard the Imperial flagship, staring at reports that made no sense to his ancient mind. These primitive mammals were supposed to have submitted or been destroyed by now, yet somehow they continued to resist. "Commander, we have lost another supply convoy," reported his tactical officer, a young Zephyrian who had never faced an enemy that fought back effectively. "The humans struck without warning and vanished before our reinforcements arrived. They took our equipment and left no survivors." Vexstar studied the tactical display with growing irritation. Red markers showed the locations of 18 separate attacks over the past month, each one precisely planned and executed. The humans were not fighting like the primitive species the Empire usually encountered. They were fighting like something far more dangerous. On Earth, Commander Sam West briefed his special operations team in a bunker deep beneath the Swiss Alps. The room was filled with captured Zephyrian equipment that his people had risked their lives to obtain. Each piece represented intelligence that Earth scientists desperately needed to understand their enemy. "The latest raid was a complete success," Sam reported to his assembled operatives. "Lieutenant Nina Foster's team captured an entire Zephyrian communications array. The intel we're getting from it is beyond valuable." Nina smiled grimly from her seat near the back of the room, her face still bearing scars from the explosion that had opened their path to the alien equipment. Dr. Lisa Morgan worked frantically in her laboratory, surrounded by alien technology that defied easy understanding. The Zephyrian devices operated on principles that human science was only beginning to grasp, but each captured piece brought new insights. "We're making progress," she told Dr. Richard Park during one of their daily briefings. "Their technology is incredibly advanced, but it follows logical patterns. We're learning to predict how their systems will behave." The breakthrough came when engineer Ben Carter successfully reverse-engineered a Zephyrian power cell. The device was smaller than a human fist, but contained more energy than Earth's largest power plants. "The implications are staggering," Ben explained to the assembled research team. "If we can replicate this technology, we can power weapons that match their energy output." But the humans weren't just copying alien technology, they were improving it. Dr. Jennifer Brooks discovered that Zephyrian systems were designed for efficiency and reliability, but they lacked the flexibility that came naturally to human engineering. "They build things to last forever," she observed, "but that makes their systems predictable. We can exploit that predictability." The first major test came when Captain Danny Cooper led a squadron of modified human fighters against the Zephyrian patrol. The human ships had been equipped with prototype weapons based on captured alien technology, and Danny's pilots had trained for months to use tactics that no Zephyrian had ever encountered. "Remember, they expect us to fight like every other species they've conquered," Danny told his pilots over the communication system. "They think we'll come at them in straight lines with predictable tactics. Show them how wrong they are." The battle was brief but decisive. Danny's fighters used human creativity and adaptability to outmaneuver the alien ships, striking from unexpected angles and using the Zephyrians' own energy weapons against them. When the fight ended, 3 alien ships had been destroyed and the rest had fled in confusion. "High Commander," Vexstar received the battle report with disbelief. "How is this possible? Their ships are inferior to ours in every measurable way." His tactical officer studied the sensor records carefully before responding. "Commander, they didn't fight like any species in our database. They used irregular attack patterns and tactics that seemed to change constantly during the battle. The humans were demonstrating something the Zephyrian Empire had forgotten during its 50 Million years of dominance, the power of innovation under pressure. While the aliens relied on tactics perfected over millennia, humans adapted and evolved their strategies with each battle. Alex Chun sat in a secure facility beneath San Francisco, surrounded by computer equipment that hummed with barely contained power. Alex was Earth's best hacker, and the captured Zephyrian communications equipment had given access to something unprecedented: the Empire's computer networks. "I'm inside their system," Alex reported to General Marcus Stone during a secure video conference. "Their security is incredibly sophisticated, but it's designed to stop known threats. They've never encountered human-style cyber warfare before." Alex's fingers danced across multiple keyboards as lines of alien code scrolled past on dozens of screens. The cyber attack began subtly. Zephyrian automated systems started experiencing small glitches and errors that their technicians dismissed as minor malfunctions. But Alex had planted viral programs that learned and adapted, spreading through the alien networks like digital cancer. Within days, Zephyrian supply ships were delivering the wrong materials to the wrong locations. Communication systems experienced delays and data corruption. Automated defenses occasionally fired at their own ships due to corrupted friend or foe identification systems. Dr. Morgan's team achieved another breakthrough when they successfully analyzed the quantum field generators that powered Zephyrian shields. "We can't replicate their technology exactly," she explained to President Helen Carter, "but we can create weapons that resonate with their field frequencies. The effect should be devastating." Colonel Andy Miller took charge of weaponizing the Discovery, working with his engineering team to create what they called resonance torpedoes. The weapons were designed to slip through Zephyrian shields and create cascade failures in their defensive systems. The first test came when Admiral Jake Harrison, newly promoted after his encounter with the aliens, led a strike force against a Zephyrian research facility. The facility was heavily defended by ships that had never been defeated in battle, but they had never faced weapons designed specifically to exploit their weaknesses. "All ships target their primary vessels with resonance torpedoes," Jake ordered as his fleet approached the alien position. "Remember, we only get one chance to surprise them. Make it count." The human weapons struck the Zephyrian shields and seemed to pass through them like they didn't exist. The alien ships, suddenly defenseless, found themselves facing human firepower that could actually damage their hulls. The battle that followed was humanity's first clear victory against superior alien technology. High Commander Vexstar stared at the aftermath report in stunned silence. An entire research facility destroyed, 5 Imperial ships lost, and the humans had suffered minimal casualties. "This is impossible," he muttered to himself. "They are a young species with primitive technology. How are they doing this?" His science advisor, an ancient Zephyrian who had served the Empire for thousands of years, provided an answer that chilled Vexstar to his core. "Commander, I believe we have made a fundamental error in our assessment of these humans. We measured their technology and military capability, but we failed to account for their adaptability and creativity. They are not fighting us with their existing strengths. They are creating new strengths specifically to counter ours." As news of the victory spread throughout human space, something remarkable happened. The success proved that the Zephyrians could be defeated, and that knowledge spread like wildfire through every human colony and settlement. Resistance groups formed spontaneously, using captured alien equipment and human ingenuity to strike at Imperial forces wherever they could be found. The war was far from over, but the tide was beginning to turn. The Zephyrian Empire, which had expected to crush a primitive species within weeks, was discovering that they had awakened something far more dangerous than they could have imagined. They had underestimated the human spirit, and that mistake was about to cost them everything. They thought they knew about galactic warfare. 6 months into the war, Admiral Jake Harrison stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Hughes Defiance, watching Proxima Station grow larger on the main screen. The massive Zephyrian facility had been built to guard one of their primary supply routes, and its destruction would cripple their operations in this sector of the galaxy. Today, humanity would attempt its most ambitious military operation yet. "All ships report ready, Admiral," called out Communications Officer Lisa Park from her station. Jake's fleet consisted of 47 vessels, each one equipped with the latest human weapons technology. They faced a Zephyrian force of 28 ships defending the station, but those ships represented some of the most powerful vessels in the Imperial fleet. Dr. Lisa Morgan, now serving as the fleet's chief science officer, monitored the quantum field disruptors that had been installed on every human ship. "Resonance torpedo systems are online and ready, Admiral. The Zephyrians won't be expecting our new modifications." Her team had spent months improving the weapons that had given humanity its first victories. The human fleet moved into attack formation, using tactical patterns that had been developed through careful study of Zephyrian weaknesses. Unlike the rigid formations favored by Imperial forces, the human ships spread out in loose, flexible groups that could adapt quickly to changing battle conditions. "Begin the attack," Jake ordered, and space erupted with energy as 47 human ships opened fire simultaneously. The resonance torpedoes slipped through Zephyrian shields as if they didn't exist, striking hulls that had never been damaged in thousands of years of Imperial service. Captain Joey Martinez led the fighter squadron assigned to protect the fleet's flanks. His pilots had trained for months to use human reflexes and intuition against Zephyrian technology that relied heavily on automated systems. "Stay unpredictable," Joey told his pilots over the communication system. "Don't let their computers figure out what you're going to do next." The Zephyrian commander, Admiral Kexlin, watched in horror as his supposedly invincible shields failed to stop the human weapons. "How are they penetrating our defenses?" he demanded of his tactical officer. "Our shields have protected Imperial ships for millions of years, but the humans weren't finished demonstrating their adaptability." Commander Kelly Thompson led a squadron of ships equipped with experimental weapons that Dr. Jennifer Brooks had developed based on captured Zephyrian technology. These hybrid systems combined alien energy manipulation with human engineering principles, creating weapons that exceeded the performance of either technology alone. "Target their command ship," Kelly ordered as her squadron approached the center of the Zephyrian formation. "If we can disrupt their coordination, the rest of their fleet will be vulnerable." Her ships moved with the fluid grace that had become the hallmark of human space combat, avoiding enemy fire while positioning themselves for maximum effect. The battle raged for 3 hours, but the outcome was never really in doubt. Human tactical flexibility overwhelmed the rigid Zephyrian battle doctrine that had worked perfectly against every previous enemy. When the fighting ended, the massive Proxima station was a drifting wreck, and the surviving Imperial ships were fleeing toward their nearest stronghold. Jake stood in the wreckage of the Zephyrian Command Center, studying the alien technology that surrounded him. His Marines, led by Colonel Mike Rodriguez, had captured the facility with minimal casualties by using tactics that the defenders had never encountered. "Secure all the technical data," Jake ordered. "Every piece of information we capture brings us closer to ending this war." On the planet below, Major Amy Foster led Special Forces units in precision strikes against Zephyrian ground installations. Her teams moved through alien facilities with the efficiency that came from months of studying captured Imperial equipment. "Remember, we're not just destroying their capability to fight," Amy told her soldiers. "We're gathering intelligence that will help us understand how their entire empire operates." The success at Proxima Station had consequences that reached far beyond the immediate tactical victory. High Commander Vexstar received reports of the defeat with growing dread, realizing that his forces were facing an enemy unlike anything in Imperial experience. "They are not fighting like the primitive species our records describe," Vexstar told the Imperial War Council during an emergency session. "These humans demonstrate technological adaptation and tactical innovation at a rate we have never encountered. They are learning faster than we can develop countermeasures." The oldest member of the War Council, an ancient Zephyrian whose memory reached back millions of years, spoke with the weight of experience. Commander Vexstar, I have observed the rise and fall of 10,000 species during my lifetime. The humans display characteristics that we have not seen since our own species achieved galactic dominance. They possess the most dangerous quality any enemy can have: they refuse to accept defeat. Meanwhile, on Earth, President Helen Carter addressed the Global Assembly with news of the victory. Today we have proven that determination and ingenuity can overcome any technological advantage. The Zephyrians thought they knew what humans were capable of, but they measured us by our current technology rather than our potential for growth. Dr. Richard Park presented his latest research to the assembled scientists and military leaders. We are not merely copying Zephyrian technology anymore. We are improving upon it, creating hybrid systems that exceed the performance of either human or alien technology alone. The enemy gave us the tools for our own liberation. Engineer Ben Carter had achieved a breakthrough that would change the course of the war. Working with captured Zephyrian quantum field generators, he had developed power systems that could energize weapons beyond anything previously imagined. We can now build ships that match Imperial vessels in pure firepower, he reported to General Marcus Stone. But more importantly, we can build them faster than the Zephyrians can replace their losses. The psychological impact of human victories was spreading throughout Zephyrian space. Species that had served the Empire for millions of years began to question whether Imperial dominance was truly eternal. Reports reached Earth of rebellion, brewing on dozens of worlds as alien populations witnessed something they had never seen before. Successful resistance to Zephyrian rule. Captain Chris Walker had been captured during one of the early battles, but his behavior in Zephyrian custody was teaching the aliens uncomfortable lessons about human nature. Despite interrogation techniques that had broken members of countless other species, Chris maintained his defiance and even managed to gather intelligence about Imperial operations. The humans refused to acknowledge our superiority even when they act completely helpless, reported the Zephyrian intelligence officer responsible for Chris's interrogation. Their mental resilience exceeds anything in our experience. They seem to grow stronger when faced with adversity rather than weaker. Alex Chen's cyber warfare campaign was producing results beyond anyone's expectations. The viral program spreading through Zephyrian computer networks had begun causing system-wide failures that crippled Imperial logistics. I've identified weaknesses in their central command structure, Alex reported to Admiral Harrison during a secure communication. If we can coordinate a major cyber attack with our next military offensive, we can paralyze their ability to respond effectively. Agent Grace Miller had achieved the impossible by successfully infiltrating a Zephyrian core world. Her intelligence. Reports revealed growing dissent within the Empire as military defeats mounted and the cost of the war strained Imperial resources. They're starting to panic, Grace reported from deep within enemy territory. The leadership is arguing among themselves about how to deal with a threat they don't understand. The war had reached a turning point that neither side had anticipated. The Zephyrian Empire, accustomed to quick victories over primitive species, found themselves locked in a prolonged conflict with an enemy that grew stronger with each battle. Humanity, expected to surrender or die within weeks, had not only survived but was actively winning battles against supposedly superior alien technology. As Admiral Harrison prepared his fleet for the next phase of operations, he reflected on how much had changed since that first encounter with Zephyrian arrogance. The aliens had dismissed humans as primitive mammals unworthy of serious consideration, but they were learning that underestimating the human spirit was the most dangerous mistake any enemy could make. The war entered its second year with humanity not just surviving, but actively pushing Zephyrian forces back across multiple fronts. In research facilities throughout human space, scientists worked around the clock to maintain the technological edge that had given them their victories. Dr. Rachel Torres stood in her medical laboratory, examining tissue samples from wounded Zephyrian soldiers that had been captured during recent battles. Their physiology is remarkably sophisticated, Rachel explained to her research team, but it also reveals important vulnerabilities. Their healing systems are designed for efficiency, not speed. When they're injured, they require specific medical equipment that we can identify and target. Her discoveries were already being used to develop field medical treatments that surpassed anything the Zephyrians possessed. Engineer Paul Davis worked frantically to maintain the supply lines that kept human forces equipped with the advanced technology they needed to fight the Empire. His job had become increasingly dangerous as Zephyrian forces specifically targeted human logistics, but Paul had developed transportation methods that the aliens couldn't predict or intercept. We're moving supplies through routes that don't exist on any Imperial map, Paul reported to General Marcus Stone during their weekly briefing. The Zephyrians can't stop what they can't find, and we're using their own predictable patrol patterns against them. His innovations had kept human forces supplied despite being outnumbered and operating far from their home bases. Agent Grace Miller had spent months operating deep within Zephyrian territory, gathering intelligence that revealed the Empire's greatest weakness: overconfidence bred from millions of years of unchallenged dominance. Her latest report contained information that would reshape humanity's understanding of galactic politics. The Empire controls over 10,000 species. Grace transmitted from her hiding place on the Imperial capital world, but most of them serve out of fear rather than loyalty. Many subject species are watching the human war with great interest. If we can prove that the Empire can be defeated, widespread rebellion becomes inevitable. High Commander Vexstar studied battle reports that painted an increasingly grim picture of Imperial fortunes. Human forces had captured or destroyed over 200 Zephyrian ships, and their rate of technological advancement showed no signs of slowing. Worse still, the humans seemed to be inspiring resistance movements throughout Imperial space. The situation has deteriorated beyond our initial projections, Vexstar admitted to the Imperial War Council. These humans possess a quality that we failed to account for in our strategic planning. They do not merely adapt to our tactics. They anticipate our next moves and prepare countermeasures in advance. Dr. Lisa Morgan had made another breakthrough in her analysis of Zephyrian quantum technology. Working with captured Imperial equipment, she had discovered that their most advanced systems relied on a central control matrix that coordinated all energy manipulation throughout their empire. If we can disrupt this matrix, she explained to Admiral Jake Harrison, we can cripple their ability to maintain technological superiority across their entire territory. The plan that emerged from this discovery was audacious beyond anything humanity had previously attempted. A strike force would penetrate deep into Imperial space to target the quantum control facility that maintained Zephyrian technological coordination. The mission would require precise timing, overwhelming firepower, and a willingness to sacrifice everything for the chance of victory. Lieutenant Chris Walker had finally been rescued from Zephyrian captivity, but his months as a prisoner had provided invaluable intelligence about Imperial psychology. They're starting to doubt themselves, he reported during his debriefing. The interrogators kept asking how humans could be so resilient. They can't understand why we don't break under pressure the way other species do. Admiral Harrison assembled his fleet for the most dangerous mission in human history. 120 ships, representing the best of human technology and the finest personnel from every branch of service, prepared to strike at the heart of an empire that had never been successfully challenged. We're going to show the galaxy what humans are really capable of, Jake told his assembled captains during the final briefing. The Zephyrians think they understand us because they've watched us fight for 1 year. They have no idea what we're really like when our survival depends on absolute victory. Captain Joey Martinez led the fighter squadrons that would provide cover for the main assault. His pilots had become legends throughout human space, their kill ratios against Zephyrian forces exceeding anything thought possible when the war began. Remember, we're not just fighting for Earth, Joey told his pilots. We're fighting for every species that has ever been enslaved by Imperial arrogance. The multi-species rebellion that Grace Miller had predicted was already beginning. On dozens of worlds throughout Imperial space, alien populations rose against their Zephyrian overlords. The rebels lacked the technological sophistication of human forces, but they provided crucial intelligence and disrupted Imperial communications at critical moments. Commander Kelly Thompson had been assigned to coordinate with these rebel forces, teaching them human tactics and providing them with captured Imperial equipment. "Courage is contagious," she observed while training a group of Cathari rebels who had never held weapons before. "Once people see that the Empire can be beaten, they find strength they didn't know they possessed." Dr. Jennifer Brooks achieved the final technological breakthrough that would make the assault possible. By combining human innovation with reverse-engineered Zephyrian systems, she had created weapons capable of penetrating the quantum barriers that protected the Empire's most critical facilities. "These devices will only work once," she warned Admiral Harrison as the weapons were loaded onto his ships. "The Zephyrians will adapt their defenses after they see what we're capable of. We need to make this attack count because we won't get a second chance." Alex Chen had prepared a cyber warfare package that would coordinate with the physical assault. "When you begin your attack," Alex explained to the strike force commanders, "I'll release viral programs that will cascade through their quantum control network. The combination of physical and digital assault should overwhelm their ability to respond effectively." The human fleet departed for Imperial space knowing that many of them would not return, but they also knew that their sacrifice might end a war that had already cost millions of lives and free countless species from Imperial domination. The stakes could not be higher, and failure was not an option. As the ships disappeared into faster-than-light travel, President Helen Carter addressed the people of Earth and the human colonies. "Today, our finest defenders embark on a mission that will determine the future of our species and the fate of the galaxy. They carry with them the hopes of every free being in the universe." High Commander Vexstar received intelligence reports of the human fleet's departure with growing unease. His tactical advisors had no idea where the humans were heading, but the size and composition of their force suggested something far more ambitious than previous operations. "They are planning something unprecedented," Vexstar told his staff. "These humans have consistently exceeded our predictions of their capabilities. We must assume they intend to strike at targets we consider impossible for them to reach." But the Zephyrian commander still did not fully comprehend what he was facing. He understood that humans were technologically innovative and tactically flexible, but he failed to grasp the deeper truth about human nature. Humans did not simply fight to win. They fought to protect what they loved and to ensure that future generations would be free to reach their full potential. The final phase of the war was about to begin, and the galaxy would soon discover whether the human spirit was strong enough to topple an empire that had ruled unopposed for 50 million years. The human fleet emerged from faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Zephyrian home system, facing defenses that had protected the Imperial capital for 50 million years. Admiral Jake Harrison stood on the bridge of his flagship, studying sensor readings that showed hundreds of alien warships arranged in perfect defensive formations around their most precious world. "All ships, this is Admiral Harrison," Jake broadcast to his fleet. "Today we end a war that should never have begun. The Zephyrians thought they could enslave humanity because we were young and our technology was primitive. They forgot that. The strength of a species isn't measured by the age of their civilization, but by the courage of their hearts." Dr. Lisa Morgan worked frantically at her science station, coordinating the quantum disruption weapons that would make their assault possible. "Admiral, the disruption devices are ready, but I'm detecting energy patterns I've never seen before. The Zephyrians have been preparing for us?" High Commander Vexstar watched the approaching human fleet from his command center on the Imperial capital world. For the first time in his long life, he felt something he had never experienced before: genuine fear of defeat. "They dare to attack our home system," he whispered to his tactical staff. "These primitive mammals think they can challenge the heart of our empire." The battle began with Alex Chen's cyber assault, viral programs cascading through Zephyrian computer networks faster than Imperial technicians could respond. Critical defense systems experienced cascade failures as human-designed. Malware exploited weaknesses that had existed for millions of years but had never been tested by an enemy. Capable of finding them. Captain Joey Martinez led the first wave of fighters through the gap created by the cyber attack. His pilots faced odds that would have been impossible for any previous generation of humans. But they possessed something their enemies lacked, the absolute conviction that freedom was worth any sacrifice. "Break their formations," Joey ordered, as his fighters engaged the Zephyrian defenders. "Don't let them coordinate their attacks. Stay unpredictable and keep them guessing." The human pilots moved through space with fluid grace, their tactics adapting moment by moment to exploit every weakness in Imperial defenses. Commander Kelly Thompson commanded the assault ships tasked with delivering Dr. Jennifer Brooks' quantum disruption weapons to their targets. The devices had to be placed manually inside Zephyrian facilities, meaning certain death for the volunteers who carried them. But there was no shortage of humans willing to make that sacrifice. "Remember, we're not just fighting for victory," Kelly told her teams as they prepared for their final mission. "We're fighting to prove that no empire has the right to enslave free beings." Every species watching this battle will remember what humans were willing to do for freedom. The quantum control facility that coordinated all Zephyrian technology throughout the galaxy was protected by energy barriers that had never been breached. But Dr. Brooks' weapons had been designed specifically to exploit the resonance frequencies that Dr. Morgan had discovered during their first encounter with alien technology. Engineer Ben Carter piloted the ship carrying the primary disruption device, knowing that he would not survive the mission but determined to ensure its success. "This is for every human who dreamed of reaching the stars," he transmitted as his ship approached the facility's defensive perimeter. "And for every alien species that deserves to be free." The explosion that followed Ben's sacrifice lit up the Zephyrian home system like a second sun. The quantum control facility, along with its protective barriers, simply ceased to exist. Throughout Imperial space, technological systems that had operated flawlessly for millions of years began experiencing critical failures. High Commander Vexstar felt his flagship lose power as the quantum disruption cascaded through every Imperial system. Emergency lighting cast eerie shadows across his command center as he realized the impossible had happened. Humans had successfully struck at the technological foundation of Zephyrian dominance. How is this possible? Vexstar demanded of his science advisor. "Our quantum control systems were designed by the greatest minds our species has ever produced. How could primitive mammals find weaknesses that we never knew existed?" The ancient Zephyrian looked at his commander with something approaching respect for their human enemies. "Because they approached our technology without preconceptions about what was possible. We built our systems to be perfect and eternal, but perfection creates rigidity. The humans looked for the flaws that we couldn't see because we never imagined anyone would be capable of exploiting them." Admiral Harrison pressed his advantage as Zephyrian defenses crumbled throughout the system. Human ships, now facing enemies whose technological superiority had been neutralized, demonstrated the tactical flexibility and individual initiative that had made them dangerous from the beginning. "All ships, target their remaining command vessels," Jake ordered. "Show them what humans can do when we're fighting on equal terms." The battle that followed was brutal but decisive, with human forces systematically dismantling Imperial defenses that had seemed invincible just hours before. Agent Grace Miller emerged from hiding on the Imperial capital world as Zephyrian authority collapsed around her, the streets filled with beings from dozens of species, all celebrating the end of an empire that had oppressed them for longer than human civilization had existed. "The word is spreading throughout the galaxy," Grace reported to Admiral Harrison as human forces established control over the capital. "Every species under Imperial rule is declaring independence. The Zephyrian Empire is collapsing faster than anyone thought possible." In the aftermath of victory, something remarkable happened. President Helen Carter, now leading a hastily assembled Galactic Council, offered the defeated Zephyrians a place in a new democratic alliance, rather than seeking revenge for their attempted genocide of humanity. "We didn't fight this war to become conquerors," Helen explained to the assembled representatives of dozens of species. We fought to prove that freedom is the birthright of every intelligent being. The Zephyrians made a terrible mistake, but they also taught us something important about ourselves. High Commander Vexstar, now a prisoner but treated with dignity by his human captors, finally understood what his species had failed to comprehend. "You could have destroyed us completely," he told Admiral Harrison during their first meeting after the battle. "Any other species would have sought revenge for what we tried to do to your people. Why do you show mercy to defeated enemies?" Jake looked at the alien commander with something approaching pity. "Because that's what makes us human. We don't fight because we hate our enemies. We fight because we love what we're protecting. The war is over, and now it's time to build something better." The galaxy that emerged from the ruins of the Zephyrian Empire was unlike anything that had existed before. The Galactic Federation established its principles on human concepts of democracy, individual rights, and species equality. Former Imperial subjects worked alongside their former oppressors to create a civilization based on cooperation rather than domination. Dr. Lisa Morgan, now serving as the Federation's chief science advisor, oversaw the sharing of technology between species that had been isolated from each other for millions of years. "The Zephyrians hoarded knowledge to maintain their superiority," she observed. "We're going to share it freely so that every species can reach its full potential." The Zephyrians themselves, humbled by defeat but not destroyed, began the long process of adapting to a galaxy where they were equals rather than masters. Many of them, led by progressive thinkers who had always questioned imperial policies, embraced the changes and became valuable contributors to the new galactic order. Years later, when historians studied the war that changed the galaxy forever, they focused on the technological innovations and tactical brilliance that had made human victory possible. But the veterans who had lived through those desperate months understood that the real secret of their success had been simpler and more profound. Captain Jake Harrison, reflecting on the war's end during a ceremony honoring the fallen, spoke words that would be remembered throughout the galaxy. "The Zephyrians made one critical error in their assessment of humanity. They measured our ships and our weapons and our current technology, but they never measured our spirit. They didn't understand that humans grow stronger when threatened, more creative when desperate, and more dangerous when we have nothing left to lose." The human spirit had indeed proven to be the decisive factor in the war. It was the quality that turned ordinary people into heroes, that inspired impossible innovations under pressure, and that refused to accept defeat even when facing overwhelming odds. The Zephyrians had ruled the galaxy for 50 million years, but they had never encountered anything like the determination of humans fighting for their freedom and the freedom of others. In the end, the aliens had learned a lesson that would echo throughout galactic history. Underestimating the human spirit was a mistake that no civilization should ever make again.